On June 16th and 17th, 2024, I visited Heide Park in Soltau, Germany for the first time. During my time there, I managed to ride all 9 of their operating roller coasters, and as you guys know, I love ranking roller coasters, so here are the 9 roller coasters of Heide Park Resort ranked from worst to best. The worst roller coaster at Heide Park Resort, according to me, is Big Loop, a Vekoma MK1200. Now, this might already be a hot take because I didn't put the SLC last. And trust me, it's coming up soon, but Big Loop is so much worse in my opinion. Big Loop is one of those roller coasters that only a masochist could love in its current condition. It feels like that thing has square wheels. It is so rough and janky and stupid, and the layout is just so generic, and if it was smooth, I wouldn't even like it that much, and I'm being a bit of a hater here, but I like some of the rides at Heide Park so much, and the fact that this thing is still here, still being dog shit, and still getting longer lines than a lot of the good rides is a little infuriating to me. This was perhaps one of the easiest one-and-dones of my entire coaster riding career. It was so obvious that I was never going to be riding this ride ever again, and if I go back to Heide Park, I will not be stepping foot in that station or into that train. No chance. It's dog shit. Heide Park also doesn't seem to take care of it very well at all. The track looks like it's rotting. The paint clearly hasn't been done in at least a decade. It's just nasty. It looks great on the skyline from far away, but the closer you get to it, the worse it gets. At number 8 is the second half of the dynamic duo of dog shit at this park. It's Toxic Garden, a Vekoma SLC. There's really not much to say here. It's an SLC that clearly has not been given the tender loving care that it needs, and its restraints are brutal. They repainted it recently, but then didn't upgrade the ride in any way, which is just really confusing to me. Like, changing the theme and the paint, but not making the ride comfortable is an odd choice. And another really easy one and done. I hate this ride. It's really bad, and I hate that a park like Heide Park has it and continues to invest in it, despite not making it any better, just making it look like it doesn't suck. Which it does. At number 7 on this list is Indy Blitz, a Zero Force 1 kiddie coaster. Indy Blitz does exactly what it's supposed to. It's a kids coaster with a small minimalist layout and some fun little theming for the kids to get excited by. It doesn't do anything, really, but it also doesn't hurt you, so I can't put it any lower than this. It's a kiddie coaster, what else do you want me to say? At number 6 is Groton Blitz, a Mock Rides powered coaster. I've never been the biggest fan of powered coasters in general because I find their layouts to be boring for the most part, but Groton Blitz is pretty cool, especially with all the theming that it weaves through. The landscaping around it is really well done, and there's a fun tunnel section where there's some cool scenery and some horses that are kind of leaping up towards the train, so it's pretty well done for what it is, but it's still a powered coaster, so I can't put it any higher than this. At number 5, we have Bob-On, a Mock Rides bobsled. Of the 2 Mock Rides bobsleds I got to experience on this trip, those being this and Schweizer Bob-On at Europa Park, this is definitely the best one. The layout is much longer than its counterpart at Europa Park, and it has a pretty dynamic layout with some fun twists and turns and kind of weaves in and out of itself, although it does end with a bit of an anticlimactic note with a lift hill back into the station, but otherwise it's a pretty cool ride. On a note unrelated to the ride itself, it looks really good from off-ride, especially from inside the queue line. You get some really good views of the layout itself, so I found that to be pretty interesting as well. At number 4 is Desert Race, an Intamin accelerator. From this point in the video forward, every single roller coaster here is great. Some of my favorite rides on the trip, and some just world-class coasters in general. Desert Race seems to get an exceedingly bad rep, and I don't really understand why. This ride is a blast. There's really nothing wrong with it in any way that I can think of. There might not be as many elements as you would hope to get from a sick Intamin with a powerful launch, but I think it's awesome for what it is. You get a punchy launch, 62 miles an hour, you get some really good airtime on all of the hills throughout the layout, you get some nice positives on those turns. There's really nothing to complain about here. It's got the slightest little shake to it, but it didn't bother me at all, and I had no issues with the restraints either. This thing is great, and I hope that people realize that eventually because right now it's pretty underrated in my opinion. My only complaint for Desert Race is that the operations were pretty bad for it. They only had 1 train going, even though it has an unload and a loading station, so you could very easily run 2 trains with no issue at all. Didn't really make much sense to me, but other than that, great ride. I would love to get back on this thing someday. At number 3, it might be a bit of a controversy, it's Flug der Dämonen, a B&M wing coaster. This ride's placement is not a knock on it whatsoever. I think it is an incredible wing coaster and one of my favorite B&Ms ever, honestly, but it's just a testament to how good I think the ride above it is. Small-scale wing coasters like Flug der Dämonen are just so appealing to me because I feel like the big, swooping ones end up being kind of meandering and boring, while Flug der Dämonen's layout is really dynamic in my opinion. The wing over drop into the airtime hill into the Immelmann is such a well done sequence, and it looks so good from off-ride too as it goes above and underneath of pathways. That 0G roll is just pure bliss, and the demonic knot at the end is so sick. I got a little bit of a gray out on it every time that I did it. I love the score that they've got playing in the station. I just love the vibe of the ride in general. It's just so creepy and just a little bit unnerving, and it's done so well. I really think this ride is a blast, and the only reason it's not higher is because the next 2 rides, I think, are the best of their kinds. The second best roller coaster at Heide Park, in my opinion, is Crake, a B&M dive coaster, and my favorite B&M dive coaster. Since my visit to Heide Park, I have gotten a chance to re-ride both SheiKra and Griffin, which were my favorite B&M dive coasters before this, and Crake is still better. I think this is potentially my hottest take of all time, bar none, but I really love Crake and everything about it. I think the way that the drop is executed is so impressive and so daunting to both enthusiasts and the general public. That drop into the creature's mouth is just unmatched in my opinion from dive coasters in general. The drop going straight into the splashdown is just one of the coolest things any coaster has ever done in my opinion. And the Immelmann directly after it is so floaty. You're out of your seat almost the entire way with the way it's shaped. The airtime hill, you don't really get any airtime, but you get basically perfect 0G. It's just nice and floaty and fun, and then the ride ends. It doesn't beat around the bush at all. It just does the 3 great elements, and then it gets out of the way. I think it's the most re-rideable roller coaster of all time. It is perfectly smooth from start to finish. There's not a single jolt, and I just lapped this thing as much as I could when I wasn't lapping my favorite roller coaster at this park. I think this thing is a masterpiece. It's so simple and yet so beautiful, and I'm gonna have a soft spot for this coaster for the rest of my life. I guarantee there's gonna be plenty of people disagreeing with me, but I don't care. This thing is amazing. And the only reason that my adoration for Crake doesn't put it at number 1 is because my adoration for Colossus Kampf der Giganten is just a smidge more pronounced. Oh my God, Colossus is unbelievable. One of the best roller coasters I have ever been on. I think it's in my top 10, I'm really not sure. The airtime on this thing is spectacular, and it is glossy smooth from start to finish. Oh, I want to be riding it right now. The whole area around Colossus is just this big film scene, essentially. You've got this soundtrack going off, it's so ominous and creepy, and then the line just builds up into this station that is overgrown with whatever Colossus is, and then you hop in the train and you get sent out into one of the best layouts on any wooden roller coaster ever. I've heard so many people say this ride is slow or sluggish, and I'm not even going to say I disagree. They're just wrong. The airtime on this thing is unbelievably good. You get flung out of your seats on that first drop in the back row, and those 2 massive camelbacks just eject you completely. It is insane. The return trip is a little bit less eventful, but once you get through that turnaround section and the little helix there after what should be a mid-course but isn't, those return airtime pops are so good, and then you hit the coolest theming element in the middle of a ride's layout I've ever seen with that giant creature eating the track. It literally does look like you're about to fly off of it, and then you go into his mouth, get sprayed with mist, and then you get airtime inside of his mouth. Oh, it's so sick. I can't even explain it without getting like giddy. It is so well done, and I'm so glad that I got as many rides on it as I did, because I don't know if I'm ever going to get back to Heide Park, but the experience that I had with Colossus was one of the best coaster riding experiences of my entire life, and I'm so grateful for that. And with that exuberant exclamation of love for Colossus, that is my complete list of all of the roller coasters at Heide Park ranked from worst to best. Let me know in the comments if you disagree with my ranking. I would be shocked if anyone actually has the same ranking as I do. I would love to hear your opinions, I would love to hear why I'm wrong, and I would love it if you guys check out my vlogs from Heide Park. I had 2 of them technically, one with Hansa Park at the beginning of it, and then a full vlog from Heide Park as well. Check those out. I think they're both really funny. I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you got this far, please leave a like and subscribe, and I will talk to you all in the next video. Bye-bye.